Good evening. Nova Scotia political parties are making their final push for votes tonight.
Yes, with a little over 24 hours to go, the Progressive Conservatives and the New Democrats are once again hammering away on health care.
They have seized on the issue, hoping to galvanize opposition to Stephen McNeil. For a last look at the race, Paul Withers is standing by live. Good evening to you, Paul.
Well, good evening to you, Tom. You know, the Liberals are ending this election the way they started it, ahead in the public opinion polls and pushing for the first back-to-back majority government in Nova Scotia since 1988.
Great to meet you, sir.
Great to meet you, too. Far from the leaders, New Democrat and former CBU President David Wheeler is looking for votes in Halifax-Armdale. It's one of those key ridings in Metro that could determine the outcome. One of 18 Metro seats that flipped to the Liberals last time, sending Lena Diab to Province House.
Nature of this seat is that it's in play. It could go NDP, which is obviously what I hope, or it could remain with the Liberals, depending on how people see the future of this province. If they choose Hope, it should go to the NDP.
But like many New Democrats in Metro, he's fending off a last-minute appeal from the PCs to NDP voters.
Only the PCs can replace the McNeil government.
That's a claim Wheeler rejects.
Certainly in this riding, it's a straight race really between us and the Liberal incumbent. So tactical voting won't necessarily change the result in favour of the Conservatives. So we would always say, vote your conscience.
In Cape Breton, Stephen McNeil was with candidate Bobby Morris in Inverness, making a blunt appeal to voters in Western Cape Breton.
There is a second Liberal majority government sitting out there. The people of Inverness are going to have to decide, do they want a member in the government or one on the outside of it?
While McNeil was trying to seal the deal, his rivals returned again to health care.
Is there or is there not a health care crisis in Nova Scotia?
Do I believe there's a crisis? No. I believe there are challenges in the healthcare
leader Gary
system.
Burrell ended his campaign beside a well-known family doctor, reinforcing his party's big health care offer to voters.
Our platform commitment to dedicate $120 million over 4 years to improve access to doctors and nurse practitioners.
Jamie Bailey's big event today was also dedicated to the issue.
We're going to hire more doctors, more nurse practitioners, more mental health specialists, and get them to the people that need them in the most urgent way. That is the Progressive Conservative plan of action.
Now, Tom, ironically, the PCs need the New Democrats like David Wheeler to knock off Liberals if they have any hope of overtaking the Liberals. And by the way, local Liberal incumbent Lena Diab was not made available to speak to us today. Tom?
Well, thanks very much for that. The CBC's Paul Withers, he is in our newsroom for us tonight. Well, it has been a busy month for each of the party leaders as they've been crisscrossing the province, pitching their plans. On the final day of the campaign, each say they're happy with how things have unfolded, and each say they're in it to win it.
I feel very good about our campaign, the candidates that we have, the people I've met. It seems clear to me people are looking for change. They believe we can be doing better. They hear us talking about their number one issue, which is health care. I think we have a great plan that matches up what Nova Scotians are asking of us, and that's why I feel very good going into the final few days.
I think there is no way in Nova Scotia we are going to be able to make the investments in healthcare, education, widening opportunities, and making sure that all of our people get enough to eat. There's only one way to accomplish these goals in our election, and that's 26 NDP elections tomorrow, NDP MLAs tomorrow.
What I've continued to do is deliver a positive message, one of hope, dealing with the direct issues that are impacting Nova Scotians, less about the Jamie Bailey or Gary Burrell. I've delivered a message about what our party is going to do. I'm very proud of that, whether it's on the dealing with the healthcare issue or whether it's growing the economy and young people seeing the future for themselves here, people with disabilities, making sure, quite frankly, that we continue to build on the success that we've all had as a province together by working together.
So that's what the leaders say. What exactly do the polls say? I'll talk to CBC polls analyst Eric Grenier about that. That's our newsmaker just after 6:30.
So most Nova Scotians will be heading to the polls tomorrow, but in this election cycle, more people than ever got their vote in early by taking advantage of advance polls. Those closed at the end of the day on Saturday, and by then nearly 113,000 people had already made their choice. That's up from the less than 101,000 people who voted in advance in 2013. Now, if you didn't mark your ballot early, you've got 12 hours to do so tomorrow. Polls are open across the province from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And when the polls close, CBC Nova Scotia has got you covered. Our live election special begins at 8 o'clock here on CBC Television. We'll be live at each of the party headquarters, and we'll be bringing you up-to-minute results. You can also follow the race online at cbc.ca/ns and on CBC Radio 1. And Amy, tonight's newsmaker, has followed the Nova Scotia election campaign and has studied the polls. Tonight, we get his analysis. Eric Grenier is the CBC's polls analyst. He is in Ottawa. So, Eric, remind people of where we sit with the polls right now.
Well, where we're sitting right now is a Liberal lead in the polls. There were two final polls of the campaign that came out just over the last few days. One from CRA for the Chronicle Herald. It gave the Liberals a 10-point lead over the Progressive Conservatives. And a Main Street poll that was out just today put the gap at about 8 points. So that's a pretty comfortable lead for the Liberals in the sense that they could probably hope to go into tomorrow night with the much better odds of winning the popular vote, winning the most seats. Whether it will be enough to give them a majority government or a minority government, I think that is probably the biggest question we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so the Liberal trajectory seems to be working out for them. It's that percentage of vote you talked about. In the past, we know the lowest it's ever been for a government to form in this province is 39.2%, but you see the Liberals over that.
Yeah, and it all depends on how the seats work out for them. We've seen polling, that Main Street poll suggested that the Liberals are in first place in Halifax and also in the rest of the mainland of Nova Scotia. They're only trailing the PCs on Cape Breton Island. So if it works out like that tomorrow night, then it is likely that they will be able to cobble together enough seats. But we'll have to wait and see. We have seen the PC numbers go up and down during this campaign. So if we see that they get some sort of bump, perhaps a lot of people looking at the polls might decide to go to the PCs if they had been previously considering the New Democrats, who are polling somewhere around 22, 24%. Maybe they could get some sort of boost at the ballot box. But, still some open questions. But certainly the Liberals are in a better position today than they were maybe a week or two ago, when some of the polls are putting the gap between the Liberals and the PCs at just 2 or 3 points.
When you talk about popular vote, people are still fresh off the U.S. election thinking about Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote there. But as you say, it really does depend where those votes fall in the individual ridings.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the Liberals, that is actually an important factor, because when we try to model how this could turn out at the seat level, when you do get a very close margin for the Liberals and the PCs, even with the Liberals several points over the PCs, you do have the scenarios where it is very possible that they could end up losing the seat count. But with these kind of numbers, that 8 to 10 point lead, that doesn't seem too likely. But again, the caveats we always need, that we'll have to wait and see what actual voters decide.
In the last 10 days or so of the campaign, the other parties were really whacking the Liberals on the health care issue, claiming the Liberals hadn't done enough of it to deal with the health care issues in this province. Any evidence that something like that has been making a dent or a change in the way people may be intending to vote?
We haven't really seen much movement at all in this campaign. The Liberals started at around 40 to 42% in the polls when this campaign was kicked off 4 weeks ago, and that's about where they are today. So we haven't seen much movement. If there has been any movement, it's been between the PCs and the New Democrats, with the PCs gaining some points, separating themselves from the NDP and solidifying at least their position as the official opposition. But all of these attacks that have been launched at McNeil, we haven't seen it really have much of an impact, though his personal popularity numbers, he's a bit less popular than his own party, so maybe on that score it has had some effect.
Well, it should be an interesting night, as you say, some key races to watch, and what happens with the NDP vote and some of these ridings should really help tell the tale. I know we're looking forward to an exciting night. Eric Grenier, good of you to be a part of our coverage throughout the campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you.